American patriots, this is a plea. As Reagan once said, we are one generation away from our freedoms being extinct. Fast forward to today, I believe we are one election away from our freedoms being extinct. We can no longer be complacent. We must stand up and fight for America First conservatives at all levels of politics. I will refuse to be the generation to explain to my kid what freedom was like. Decades of damage has been done. It's our time. It's our country. It's our freedoms. You are listening to the Light of Liberty podcast. Good morning, Patriots. It's a beautiful spring day here in Pennsylvania, and we've got a special guest with us today. He is a Christian, a father, author, and a highly successful chiropractor and nutritional expert. He's also the president of Sheild of the Truth Network. Welcome to the show, Dr. Doug Pfeiffer. How are you?
I'm doing well, Josh. Thank you for having me this morning. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Let's kind of dive right in here. Sheild of Truth Network. What is it? What's the origins? Tell us how it was founded.
Well, here's what I always say. I just tell folks it was a seed planted in me. It didn't come from me, guys. It was a seed planted in me based on the frustration that I saw around me. I was frustrated, and I saw others who were frustrated with what they saw occurring, not only in their communities, but in our Commonwealth and our nation and the world, really. So, here's the deal. Frustration without action, or information even without action, creates frustration, right? So we're getting bombarded with all this information, the bad things, and this is what's happening to us, and this and that, but no action plans, nothing to assist you or aid you in moving forward and doing something about what was occurring. So I decided also that what was being perpetrated upon us was fragmentation. And you know as well as I that anytime there's an assault on any country or community, the first thing you want to do is fragment the people. Because if you can separate them, you create weakness. But in unity, we create strength. So one of the things I felt needed to be done was, number one, to discern the truth about what was occurring, because quite frankly, there were deceptions occurring on both sides of the aisle, from the conservative side and the liberal side. There were things that were being done in order to generate revenues, quite frankly. There were people who were making a lot of money off of all of this stuff.
They still are.
Yep.
Yeah, on both sides.
Yeah.
And so, I feel that the key issue is seeking the truth, number one. And I don't care where that truth comes from. If it's the truth, it's the truth. And that's all there is to it. Second thing is we need to be able to disseminate that information. And the third thing is we need to be able to propagate some form of action steps in order to circumvent, fight, whatever term you want to use, against those things that are being perpetrated. So that's kind of what the impetus was. And we just developed from there because it was a common theme that many people felt they could join on with.
Yeah, and like you said, it's bringing people together, and it's uniting us and keeping us together, because that's where our strength is. And with all of this misinformation that's out there, we're seeking the truth. We want the truth. We want transparency. And by creating grassroots movement like Sheild Truth Network, you create that community. And we seek and we try to expand that truth and really cut through the weeds.
I found that mainstream media was really pushing only one narrative this whole time, the narrative they were being told to push. And I turned off the TV, and I just got my information because I search online or listen and talk to people and get my information from the sources I want to be picking it from. I try to make sure they're, good sources to get the information from, but I don't want to just take what's being thrown at me, by the mainstream media, because I don't feel it is the truth. It's the narrative they're pushing that has a lot of drama behind it, that they can get their ratings and get their money.
Absolutely. And guys, I have a few more years under my belt than you guys do. And I remember studying this in the 1980s and 90s. Now, at that time, it was cloistered. It wasn't in full view the way it is today. But there were things such as, the New World Order, the Bilderbergs, the Illuminati, all these things I studied years ago, but I kind of kept to myself because at that time, if you talked about this to people, you were like a total wacko, but I studied it. And today, that information, i.e. the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, it's in full view of everyone, and they're not holding it back. I mean, they have created a system or a situation where people, in many instances, are willing to fall in line with that. And it has to do with exactly what you said, Greg. The media has been controlled. The educational system has been taken over, essentially. And that educational system is propagated for several generations, individuals now who are willing to take money from the government, sit at home. I don't need much. If I look at when I was a kid, I grew up with parents who were Depression era kids. Well, they hoarded stuff, and that's what we grew up with. So when I was a young adult, what we wanted to do is get stuff. We wanted to get a nice home. We wanted to get a big home. You look at, young people today, my own children, and they don't want stuff. They want, less is more type thing. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but it feeds into the plan because they don't need a lot. They don't want a lot. They don't need big living space, and it's kind of like, if you look at some of the things, and this wasn't on mainstream media, but if you look at things like what they've done in China, which is kind of the model for what they want to do around the world, it essentially it showed people living in container units with air conditioners on them in the front door. I mean, if that's what people want, that's what they're going to get.
Yeah, I find that the word need goes around too often anymore from generations older than me and younger than me more so. And I hear people say, I need this, I need that. And I try to correct people all the time. I'm like, no, you want that. And It's okay to want some things. You're allowed to want things. But we need to, truly step back and look what an actual need is. We need very few things in this life to survive.
Yeah.
But we want a lot of things. True. So if we just tailor it back, get people to realize, just be honest, I think is what that boils down to, is just not what you need, what you want, and separate the two.
And here's another point, a salient point relative to that. You can want lots of things and you can have lots of things as long as you work for lots of things.
Exactly. Yes. Don't expect it to be given to you.
Yeah. You got to work hard. And that's the American dream.
Exactly. And the old adage is, I don't know nobody not, and that's important. We have gotten it, and that's a whole nother thing that happened over the last several decades is the whole credit system. So, you can buy anything you want on credit, right? And this is what's gotten a lot of people into trouble over the years. But cash in my world is still king, although they want to eliminate it.
Yeah.
They definitely are. Yeah. So all this, a lot of current events in the past couple of years has brought you to develop the Shield of Truth Network. When did you start it? Do you remember the time frame?
Believe it or not, it was 1 year. Is it 1 year ago, guys?
It was 1 year ago.
Nice.
Well, happy anniversary.
We're glad you're spending your 1 year anniversary with us here on the Light of Liberty. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
That was about March that it really coalesced. I started like in January, but when we coalesced.
Yeah, and the last 2 years really kind of opened up a lot of people's eyes. And if this pandemic didn't happen, would there be a Shield of Truth Network? Would there be a Light of Liberty podcast? Maybe, I don't know. But if anything that this pandemic did, I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes. It opened up opportunity to come together and to really see how the government is being exposed and the corruption that there's always been corruption. Now it's just on a grand scale and with technology and ways to find information is a lot easier. it's just being exposed, and we're able to see that now, and now we have to take that action, and we have to right the ship here, and bring the communities together, get people involved from the local level all the way to the federal level, and really understand how important it is to put patriotic American first people in the right positions.
Yeah. Yeah. Going into your Shield of Truth, I mean, do you have how many members you have, or like how much traffic you're getting? Is that a stat that you keep track of?
Well, I have individuals who keep track of that stat. We have one individual that kind of does our communications. We have another one that does our website. And, last I checked, we're at like 700 members or something. But, the real important thing is that we're getting the word out to a lot more than those 700.
Exactly.
And, it's important for us to recognize that, this is, I tell all of our members, and I've done this from the get-go, there is no ego involved in any of this. Ego is what's going to destroy this. I started this in order to see it flourish. This will go well beyond my lifetime. And, I have other plans for things that we can do in order to propagate good, qualified, like-minded individuals to run for public office. I think that's a critical component of what we need to do. And, you can see that some of those individuals who are like-minded as we are under assault. They're trying to get rid of them.
Yep.
Evil always attacks good.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah, I always say we must be doing something right,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When they start attacking us.
Yeah. We must be doing something right.
Yeah. So we want people to go to your website. When they go to Shield True, what are they going to find on your website?
So we have, one of the cool things that we did early on, we have the attorney who represents STN is an individual I've known for 40 years. He's a Christian man who specializes in healthcare law out of Harrisburg. He put together a religious exemption letter for us that is bulletproof. It is on our resource page of our website. And the integral part of that religious exemption letter, which is not found in many other religious exemption letters that I'm aware of, is the EEOC regs on a religious exemption specifically for vaccines. And there are specific guidelines that must be followed if you file a religious exemption with your employer. When the attorneys for the different companies that this has been used with read that section, they realize that this is not just like, playing games with people. We have gotten people in local pharmaceutical companies, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies, religious exemptions. We've gotten people in hospitals in our community. I won't name them, but they received religious exemptions. And this attorney actually got a religious exemption for an executive, and I think she's a vice president at Pfizer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that ran into that issue over the past year.
I think we all do.
We all do. I was one of them. I actually lost my job because of it. But yeah, we knew a lot of people that needed that religious exemption or a way out. And
absolutely.
Again, why are we there? We shouldn't even have to be fighting for our own jobs just because of this pandemic. And it's a shame. It's an absolute disgrace, and it's a shame that people we're putting people's livelihoods at stake, really.
And it seems like a simple process to get rid of the companies trying to force this on is if the employees just don't comply to it and they leave. But, in a very short period of time, the company's going to realize we have no employees, we can make no money, we can't do this. But they just know they have the leverage because so many families, they can't survive. They can't pay their bills if they don't have a job.
Exactly.
Going
Exactly.
into credit. I mean, so many American families live off of credit.
Yeah.
And you have the creditors knocking at your door. So if you're not working, you're not making money, you can't appease them. And you have the fear of losing your home, losing your livelihood, losing everything. And it's strong incentive to, you know, take this shot that they want to give you
Yeah,
to
and
keep your job.
you see these companies, and Greg and I have talked about this before. They're acting like their own government.
Exactly.
You look at Starbucks, mandates the vaccine, and then a week later pulls it back.
Right.
You watch the city of Philadelphia just last week, Monday, you got to wear a mask indoors. Friday, hey, you don't anymore. And it's where's this give and take going to take us, and how long do we have to see this last?
Well, there's not a lot of give. There's a lot of take.
Yeah.
And, I did get off track a little bit, Greg. You asked me about the website, and I apologize.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Sidetracked here a little bit, but our website does have our school board committee has information on the website. We have a school board committee that is fought the mask mandate in our community. And they're doing some other battles right now relative to the whole school board. We have a homeschool committee, which they have, I don't know how many links on our website on a resource page for those who need more information about homeschooling. And we have two co-chairs on the committee. One is a homeschooler, one is a cyber schooler. So they have a wealth of information. They'll be at our rally at a table so people can get information from them about that. We have a Second Amendment committee, which I know you guys feel strongly about, as do I. I've had a concealed carry license for decades and was raised, when we were kids. When we were 14, we got a rifle. That was our gift for turning 14. And, I have pictures of myself. We'd just go running out with our 22s and target shoot and stuff. When we were kids, nobody thought twice about it. Today, it's like child abuse or something.
I know.
Right.
I was in the same boat. 14 years old is when I got my hunting license, and Christmas that year, my parents got me my first shotgun. That started, hunting in the outdoors for me more so.
Right.
Yeah, and you bring up mandates here, and the mask mandates, and we have a guy running for governor of Pennsylvania, Doug Mastriano, and we're big supporters of him moving through this campaign and getting him the nomination on May 17th. He last week just put out his 100-day plan. His first 100 days in office, what he's going to do, and he talks about these mandates and ending mask mandates, and just are mandates dead if Governor or if Senator Mastriano wins election. And then he goes into talking about COVID and having early access to off-label drug treatments for COVID. That's going to be part of his plan. And that's something that should have occurred years ago, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where we say, if this pandemic was controlled, or the money, where that money and that revenue funneled, they kept control of where that went. Where would we be if we had that early access and to off-label treatments with COVID-19?
Not where we are today.
Right.
You guys know, a doctor in your community over there was fired from Tower Health Network. She was a surgeon. She had prescribed ivermectin for her patients. It's insanity. I mean, what has occurred is total insanity. Drugs have been used for off-label purposes for generations.
Yeah.
Hydrochloroquine is used as a treatment for rheumatoid arthritis, although that's not what it's designed to be used for, but it's a strong anti-inflammatory and it works. So why wouldn't you use it? And listen, I'm not a big drug advocate, but they have their place. And, during this time frame, relative to the mask mandates, we went back to our school board. I went twice. I had written articles on the masks when they first came out. And I wrote an article and did my own research because you couldn't find any research on these masks and the potential to reduce or mitigate the virus. So I did my own research, and the only mask that had any information about the pore size were the N95 masks. So I used that data, and then I got the size, the micron size of the virus, and it's a scale size. It goes from certain microns to certain microns. But the bottom line is, the pore size in the N95 mask was larger than, say, the smallest 1/3 of the COVID virus size. So it wasn't even keeping it from potentially passing directly through the mask. I went to our school board. I explained that to them. All of them were masked at the time. And I said, this is ridiculous. I mean, you're putting cloth over these kids' faces. They're not cleaning it. They're not changing it. Even the N95s, people would have those and come into my office, and they were disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, we're creating more disease.
It was more hazardous to your health.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as, alternative treatments, throughout the whole pandemic, I was, using DC, zinc, quercetin, the things that I could use with my patients to facilitate increasing their overall immune health and strength, and seeing that we could try to, navigate through this as well as we possibly could. I have so many stories about people who got COVID or got the vaccine and the reactions that they had, things that I'm seeing yet today with patients. And I'm not just talking about physical things. I'm talking about cognitive issues, just depression, anxiety. I have never seen so much anxiety in patients with this whole thing as I have now. It has changed people. There's
It
no
has.
question.
I think that's why we'll still see people out today, driving alone in their car, walking by themselves on the side of the road, and wearing a mask when there's nothing else around.
Yeah, the long-term effects, psychologically, mentally, physically, the long-term effects are really going to show in the coming years.
Yeah, and I mean, and the one narrative that hasn't really been pushed a lot from the government, the CDC, the hospitals, not to the degree that they're pushing just getting these experimental shots, is being healthy, eating right, exercising,
Exactly.
Supplements. I mean, there's so much you can do to give your body the best chance to fight it off.
Yeah, one of the most important things is your health, right? We got to have a healthy immune system. I mean, that's the study of the immune system, I think, is not portrayed enough in mainstream, and just the ability to have that and understand how your immune system is your defense to viruses and bacteria and things like that.
Absolutely. My first job out of undergraduate school was as a microbiologist. So I'm familiar with, the field, and I certainly am not an expert, but I'm familiar enough that I understand how they work. And, I told you guys, I just wrote an article. I titled it "Be the Doctor, Doctor," but in that article, I spoke about what you heard a lot of during the pandemic with individuals who were either extremely ill or died, and that is they had comorbidities.
Yeah.
Well, comorbidities for the most part are things that should have been prevented, i.e., diabetes, obesity. I know I'm getting in. We're going to do another whole talk on this. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But,
we would love to do that too.
Yeah, but when you look at the comorbidities that people have today, they shouldn't occur. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
People are poorly educated about health and wellness. They're educated quite a bit about disease and sickness, especially since pharmaceutical companies can now advertise on TV, which they, in my opinion, shouldn't be able to do.
100% agree with that. Absolutely. I've been an advocate for that for years, to get pharmaceuticals off advertising. Yeah. It's kind of like the cigarette campaign. Get it off.
And I think this information is what we need. And the network you've started is, if people go there, get on your network, become a member, they're going to be able to get access to this information that we're talking about right now. And your network, you have plans to keep it growing and expand it, which is great. And it's going to be a wealth of knowledge for people if they just, if they can find it. Well, it's easy to find. We're going to help advertise that as best as we can
Appreciate it.
to keep, get more people aware of what's going on.
Well, and you asked me about STN in the beginning, and I didn't go into our 3 tenets, but we have 3 tenets that we're built on. And the first is our biblical foundation, and that gives us the strength and the rock solid foundation to be able to kind of fight up against or
keeps your purpose in line.
Truth. Yeah, I mean that's really what it's all about. We know it's all been written. We just have to kind of work through it. The second tenet is our constitutional framework, and that gives us the structure that we require. The laws, the legal aspect of what is right and what is wrong. And the last thing is our educational keystone, which locks it all together. So if we can educate people about what's going on, but further about the Constitution, about health, about some of the things that we've discussed, then that creates freedom ultimately.
Yeah, people have to have
that's
faith.
kind of who we are.
Yeah, people have to have faith, which is your foundation. You know what I mean? And then let's reread the Constitution. Let's teach the Constitution a lot more than we have for kids growing up now. They're not taught the Constitution. We need to instill that in them. Our founding fathers were brilliant in the writing of that.
Yeah, like you said, Greg, you said it perfect. Reread it, not rewrite it, right? So
yes.
So
exactly.
and our founding fathers, that piece of document is one of the greatest pieces of documents ever written, and it's crazy that the radical left and these individuals just want to rewrite it.
Well, going on your site, Doug, you have a lot of great documents published on your site with the links to them.
Yes, and one of the things that I wanted to make sure, as you said, Greg, those founding fathers were geniuses. They're portrayed as slave owners and horrible people. They were geniuses. And Thomas Jefferson was probably in the top of the genius group. And on everything that we put out, we have a quote from him. And basically, I'll paraphrase it, but it's in order for our people to remain free, it's important for them to be educated, to understand. And that's a critical component for all of us to understand. People don't read anymore. They watch the news, they get the information that's given to them, and that's what they think the reality is. And unfortunately, oftentimes, as you know, that's not the case.
Yeah, we've gotten lazy. We like stuff handed to us. We don't like to work for things.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, there's that information's out there. It's all out there. We just have to do our job to research, weed through it, and understand it, and form our own opinions, right? Not just have opinions thrown at us and believe those. And that's the route we can't head down.
Yeah, we need to work hard. Freedom is not always safe. Yeah.
Absolutely, Greg.
Yeah. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
No, I just say that we become, as you said, lazy. We can't be spoon-fed information. My father was at age 17 standing on a battleship in the middle of the Pacific on Admiral Halsey's flag crew on the USS New Jersey. And that's a guy in that generation who they call the greatest generation, right? And I think they were. These individuals sacrificed everything, just like our founding fathers and those who fought in the Revolutionary War sacrificed everything. And they fought for what they knew was right and true. And that's what we're going to do. Yeah. The exact same thing.
Yeah. But it should be easier today. We don't have to step on the shores of Normandy. This is our battlefield. These information battlefield of Twitter and things like that, and just getting that information out there. That's what we have to do. And it's not that hard. It's just taking that first step and taking that action.
Absolutely, Josh. But we always have to remember that information is strong in its effect, and it can be manipulated very easily. And that's
Absolutely.
what we've seen too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got to control and really keep a fine line and continue down that path and research. If you find something else that you just got to keep it, me and Greg, we just go through rabbit holes of just information, right? And
Constantly digging.
and
Yeah.
then you just dig into something else and into something else. But it's that's how you form opinions, and that's how you once you form those opinions, you form those beliefs, and then
it's also how you have good conversations. I mean,
exactly.
we're doing this right now where we're talking, we're having conversations. It brings something up, and we start talking about more topics. And it's key, just talking. Having conversations with your friends, with your family, with your neighbors. It's what's going to get the word spread. Also, we're spreading it via technology, which reaches out a little bit further than our local groups, but we have to do it all.
Here's another point to that conversation aspect of what you bring up, Greg, and that is that today we have lost respect for one another relative to our opinions. Now, you guys and I are very like-minded in what we're discussing, but there are those who are not. And one of the things that I try to teach our members is, look, this whole thing has divided families, communities, brothers and sisters. And if we can broach these topics with respect and dignity for one another, the truth will prevail. We can convert those on the other side who are just perhaps somewhat ignorant of the facts and the truth. And if they're willing to listen and respectfully have a conversation with us, then we're great. But there's also a segment of that population that is dogmatic in their beliefs and will not discuss it. I have patients like that who come into my office, and I respect their opinion. I don't agree with it, and it is an opinion, but I will not waste air on trying to convert them because I know how dogmatic they are in their beliefs. So we have to just kind of leave that group.
Yeah, you can't. They won't allow you to dissent from their beliefs, and that's
correct.
We have to be tolerant of each other, and like you said, be respectful. But yeah, it that far dogmatic group you speak of is, I think it's fewer than we think, or I at least hope. But if we have conversations and be tolerant, respectful with individuals that aren't that far, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. We can have that conversation and come to some sort of agreement and a lightning moment or awakening moment with them.
That's the awakening.
Moving forward.
And you said it earlier, keep ego out of it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. This isn't about that.
Ego.
Yeah,
it's not about us. There's a bigger picture.
Yeah, it's about our future. I've always said it's about our kids. I have a son, and I've said this before in the show that I refuse to be the generation that explain what freedom was like to my kid once he grows up, and and that's what we do here, and we're going to do that now to protect and to preserve our God-given right to be free.
Yeah, and we're not at the point where we're going to force this on anybody. I mean, because this is what we're fighting, the forced mandates and all the forced, freedom losses that we're seeing right now. We can't do the same thing and try and force it the other way.
No.
Right now, we just have to have a conversation and get the information out there and hope people,
have a lightning moment. They have to wake up. They have to see it. They have to believe it. That's the only way this is going to work.
Right. They have to see the truth. And to expand on that, I always say we have three groups of individuals on the other side. We do have those who are perhaps ignorant of some of the facts. Those people you can convert if you do it correctly and respectfully. We also have the sheeple, right? They'll follow along with the group because that's the way the group is going.
Yeah.
Those people are also convertible. But the last group, the dogmatic group, I tell our members, just let them live in their world.
Yeah.
Don't upset the apple cart, because all it's going to do is create anger, frustration, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
I say that a lot. We have a lot of sheep in this world, but we don't have enough good shepherds.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, and
Very
I think that's a bigger group to attack anyway. That's the most important group,
Yeah,
So,
to convert.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And the other thing, and I had a member stand up, a new member who came out to one of our meetings, and at the end, out of frustration, she stood up and she said, "Well, what are we going to do about it? Let's do it. Let's come on, let's do it." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, so what do you want to do? Get the pitchforks and the torches, and we'll go out there." And guess what they're going to do?
Right.
They're going to turn it on us, and they're going to call us insurrectionists,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I said, no, we're going to be more like Gandhi or MLK, and we're just going to be perhaps a little bit more civil disobedient in what we're doing. We don't have to get crazy, because they're going to use that against us. We're going to show them through our actions as a group, not individually, because there's weakness there, as I said, but as a group, we can show them through our actions that, as you said earlier, one of you guys did, about the vaccine mandates. I think it was you, Greg, that we can join together and just say no.
Yeah, enough's enough, and move forward.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that's what I heard was more the reasoning why Philadelphia, after only 4 days, dropped the indoor masking policy again, is because they were getting fight back from the businesses and the people in the city, which is kind of surprising for the people in the city. But, however it happened, I'm glad they spoke up, and, the government and the city government realized we can't do this again.
Yeah, and I think they're pushing that. So are we going to go into this election and elections 2 years from now with COVID 0.2, COVID 2.5, COVID 3.0, or I mean, you look at 2016 and the Russia dossier and the Russia hoax, right? Which didn't work. With Trump winning election there. And then you move to 2020 and they throw COVID on us, and that was their attempt to manipulate and open and expand the voting, right? So, which looks like it worked in their favor. Come to this midterm election, are we going to look for another shutdown? Are we going to look for the next crisis? And in the news right now, we're seeing a lot of supply chain issues. We're seeing manufacturing of our food plants set on fire or burning, or something's going on there. There's multiple manufacturers that are being destroyed right now. And then it brings me to this.
Well, we have the avian flu also going around all the flocks.
Right.
We're transitioning from a COVID flu to humans back to this bird flu in birds, and it looks like it's destroying our poultry manufacturing. And I think Greg just had a stat, and he looked up 29 states in the United States are affected with this avian bird flu.
The avian flu right now.
And 30 million birds are infected.
Yeah, 31 million birds are affected.
So
2 million just here in Pennsylvania.
So is this supply chain issue, and with the way inflation's going, how is this going to affect us leading into November or into the next year or a few years from now? Because it doesn't look like it's getting any better. It's just looking like it's getting worse with supply chain issues. And is this the next crisis that we have to look forward to? What do we have to do to be prepared? What do families have to do to be prepared?
I think first they have to be aware, and understand that, in my opinion, this is a plan. This is not just an accident. I gave a talk in our last meeting about what I found, which was the World Economic Forum's 2020 COVID Technology Response Guideline, or whatever they called it. But basically, it was how they were using technology companies to institute all the pieces of their plan, including digital currency, which they experimented with in, I believe it was Africa, in an African country, and they got them to convert. They did a quarantine lockdown facility in India. They used certain technology companies to do this. So, this is none of this is accidental. The old adage, create a crisis, create chaos as a result, and then provide an answer.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing again with this.
Yeah.
So you guys know as well as I, we are the last holdout in this plan. Our country is the last holdout around the world. Essentially, they have everybody in lockstep to a great degree. And part of the way they do that, as they did in Australia, is to take firearms away from the populace. So that's number one thing we cannot allow to happen. But beyond that, with the current upcoming crisis of food, this is part of the plan. And people need to be aware and prepare, as you say. We are in the process of forming a preparedness committee at STN to help people understand what they can do to prepare for this. A lot of our STN members have just awakened to this, but some have been preparing for it for quite some time. I have a brother who freeze dries food. And there are freeze dryers you can get that you can freeze dry your food and it will stay for 30 years, unlike MREs and things that people get. Having water as an example, sources of electricity that you can use. These are all things that people have to take seriously at this point. I don't want to create, a big panic, but by the same token, you have to start thinking about what you can do to put things aside for your family. And remember also that if/when this does happen, and it's not going to happen like, oh, there's no food. What's going to happen is food prices are going to be exponentially increasing.
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing right now.
Exactly. And that's compounded by the inflation, obviously. We've already seen, and goes beyond the poultry thing right now, but we've also already seen in all 50 states the doubling, tripling, and even quadrupling of gas prices at the pump. So people are in a stranglehold right now, and it's a way to create submission, and a way to provide an answer. So I think that the key thing, as you guys are doing, is to inform the populace, make them aware without creating chaos and havoc and fear. We have to be able to use our heads, prepare, and get ourselves ready for what's coming, because it is coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
self-reliance. Self-reliance. I mean, if the government's the only one who has food, and they're going to be passing it out to the people who need it, you're going to be submissive. You're going to do whatever they say to get the food to survive.
Yeah, and that's why this year we believe this election is our 1776 moment. It is one of the most important elections of our lifetime, and we need to push people and get the right people in the right positions before the hits the fan moment. You know what I mean? So, So if we can do that and spread that information, and by doing that, we see you have a Spring into Action rally coming up here. I think in less than a week, actually, right?
Coming up fast.
So it is coming up
Saturday.
It is coming up really fast. I see your signs all over the local area popping up. So we're excited for this Spring into Action rally. Tell us a little bit about it.
Absolutely. So this is our second rally. We had one in the fall, and we plan to have 2 a year to help people. I always say there are 3 different purposes for our rallies. One is to educate. Obviously, that's the most important. 2 is to motivate, and that's to motivate people to do something. Okay. As I said, information without action it creates frustration. So if we can educate, motivate, and then generate what? Generate change. generate members for STN, generate information being applied so that you feel like you're just not floundering in this world. So that's really our purpose with our Spring into Action rally. It's going to be held on April 30th. It starts at 12 p.m. It's at Morning Star Fellowship Church in Pennsburg. Church, guys.
Okay.
So
yeah.
they're not afraid of their 501c3. We have some fantastic pastors in our community that are realizing that they are an integral part of this change. Where did all the information, where did all the meetings take place in 1775?
Yeah.
In churches and taverns, some right in our own community. And so we have great support from our clergy in our area. We're going to have fantastic speakers, one of whom you just mentioned. Doug Mastriano will be our keynote speaker at our STN Spring into Action rally. We're also going to have Teddy Daniels, who's running for lieutenant governor. And listen, while I can support individuals personally, through STN, the idea is to get the information out. So I don't want anybody to think that specifically we're supporting any specific candidate, because we've had other candidates for lieutenant governor. James Jones came to speak to us. We're planning on having Russ come and speak to us as well. So Russ Diamond would be there, not at our rally, but in the future. We're also having Rick Crump, who has a nonprofit organization called Kinetic Faith. Rick instructs people on how to communicate effectively with legislators, as an example, and extract truthful information from them, which is sometimes difficult to do. So Rick will be speaking. We have Steve Prouse, who's backed by public demand. Really, he spoke last year to us. He's a fellow who has been involved in the security world for many, many years, and he's going to speak about becoming a spiritual warrior. And who am I leaving out? I had to write them all down. Josh Prince, a local attorney in our area, who's going to be speaking on Second Amendment issues and Second Amendment rights. And I think I covered, we're going to have Kevin Deliker there, who is running to unseat, I believe it's Susan Wild in a district where I live. And that pretty much covers our speakers. We're going to have food truck, music, lots of fun, lots of tables set up. As I said, our committees are going to have tables. I'm sure Senator Mastriano, I know he's going to have a table there so folks can come up and speak with him. He did specifically say that he was going to stick around afterwards for some one-on-one Q&A. So we do have a lot going on. And obviously, listen, my focus will be to help people understand what STN is and to become members. That's really what it's all about for me, aside from educating folks about what's going on in this country.
Yeah, and so it's going to have a rally feel to it, but it's going to have a educational feel to it. You're gonna get something out of this rally, not just motivation, but you're going to learn something on April 30th.
Yeah, and you can become part of the community also. I mean, it takes a community to survive. And you just have to find the right community for you, and just like we have to find the right candidates for everybody. You're bringing the information and you're bringing this whole lineup of people to this rally. But like you said, it doesn't mean people have to follow these people, vote for them, do what you say. It's just the information. At the end of the day, every individual needs to make the right choice for themselves.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And we hope that people will use their own critical thinking to make their decisions.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to teach. And
how to think, not what to think. Right?
Think for yourself.
Exactly.
Be a better person.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
that's
coming up with STN, what other events do you have coming up?
Well, we have a U.S. Law Sheild concealed carry session that's going to be coming up right after the rally on Tuesday. And I'm sorry, the date escapes me, but I'm pretty sure it's that Tuesday. It's all on our website. Our monthly meetings are held at Hope Valley Community Church in Red Hill. They have allowed us to use their sanctuary for our meetings, so we have ample space for around 200, little over 200 people, and then we have overflow in another section we can use if we have more. That's for our monthly meetings, and our monthly meetings are basically educational as well. As I said, I gave a presentation on the World Economic Forum's tech use to get what they wanted done. We have coming up we have our state legislative committee chairman. That's actually Tuesday night, the 26th. My birthday, guys. I'm going to have
nice.
a meeting of SDN. All of our great folks in the leadership of STN have done their due diligence to make sure this is going to be a great meeting right prior to our rally. And so our state legislative committee chairman has sent out questionnaires to candidates. He's kind of tabulated their responses to those questionnaires, and he's going to give a report on that. He's also going to talk a little bit about the Convention of States and what they're all about and what they want to do, which I had some reservations about until I spoke with someone from the Convention of States and got some of my questions answered. So hopefully we'll answer people's questions about that as well. And, then we're going to have a congressional candidate speaking, and I'm going to keep the name secret for right now, but you guys have a little something to look forward to there as well. So we got a lot going on.
That sounds awesome. So let our listeners know how they can get involved. What can they do? Sure.
Well, I just got an email from some folks who asked if they could help with setup and tear down for the rally, who I they obviously know of us. On our website, you can register as a member, number one, which will give you access to the whole website. Non-members get access to certain things, but as I said, our resource page with some of the things like the religious exemption letter and all the links to homeschooling information, that's locked down for just members. So it's easy to become a member. All you have to do is click the link and say that you'll support our three tenets, and that's pretty much it. You can also make a donation to STN. We are a 501c4 nonprofit organization. So 501c4 gives us the opportunity to be able to do some political information gathering and dissemination, but it also affords us some protection as well. And so you can donate to STN right on our website. There's a donation tab, but go on, look around. It's the URL is www.sheildoftruth.network.org. So it's just our name.org, and you can go on there and check us out.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. So listeners out there, head over to sheildoftruth.network.org, become a member, check out all the information. There's a ton of information on there from everything and more of what we talked about on today's show. So I kind of want to end it there, Doug. Thank you so much for joining us on The Light of Liberty. We look forward to your rally on April 30th. I know Greg and I will be there, and hopefully you can't miss us. But we'll be there for support, for education, and for spreading the word and just spreading the freedom.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great conversation today.
I truly appreciate it, gentlemen, and it's been a pleasure. I hope I didn't take up too much air today.
No, the pleasure.
It's all good.
The pleasure is all ours.
Thank you.
We appreciate you for listening to this episode of the Light of Liberty podcast. Please help us share the truth and restore the freedom. Follow us on Twitter at Light of 1776 and listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio.